presenting the only podcast dedicated to the AHL's Colorado Eagles. This is the Colorado Eagles Tape to Tape podcast. Here are your hosts, Hawkley and Scott MacDonald.
Well, good evening from the mile-high city of Denver, Colorado. My name's AJ Styles. That's Scotty Too Hottie. Welcome to the Tape to Tape podcast. Not really, but you know who we are.
Throwing curveballs at him already.
Exactly. Exactly. You guys know that I'm the Macho Man Randy Savage. Oh, yeah. Feel the madness. Dig it. Yeah. Anyway. Good. Well, thank you. Yeah. I'm trying to prove my impressionistic ilk here on the podcast. And I figured
passing my book.
Oh, good. Didn't I do Jay Leno last time?
You did.
Yes.
I was impressed with that one too.
Well, thank you. Well, thank you very much. Busting it out again. All right. For serious this time, welcome to the Tape to Tape podcast. This is episode number 4. And I'm Hawkley. That's Scott MacDonald, as you heard in the intro. All joking aside. But, boy, since our last episode a couple weeks ago, I feel like this is becoming a theme. Since our last episode, a lot has happened. We've got almost a whole playoff round for the Colorado Avalanche in the books. The Western Conference Semifinal against the Dallas Stars, and Game 7 tomorrow night, Friday night. This is going to be airing on Friday in the morning. So same day as Game 7. And my goodness, Scott, has this series taken a turn? The Avs have gone from letting up 5 goals a game almost to putting up 6 goals in each of their victories. Now I'm forgetting which games they won. It was Game 3 and Game 5. They won 6-4 and 6-3. And then Game 6 last night, 4-1 victory. Michael Hutchinson, the AHL stalwart Michael Hutchinson.
What a story. Yeah.
I mean,
you love to see it. The dude, I just wrote a story about that today, and then, you can't help but just feel good about the guy. Like, he's just a crazy, crazy story. He's never really gotten his shot. Had one good season his rookie year in Winnipeg, and now here he is. Just got thrust into the national spotlight, and the biggest moment of his life, and he's done more than hold his own. He's shining. Yeah,
and I tell you, I did get a chance. My schedule's rather busy in regards to being able to actually watch the games, but I did watch Game 6, and my goodness, one of the saves where he was coming cross ice, his lateral movement was solid, and he just got his glove down, and the puck kind of went between, like, in his sleeve and his jersey and his sweater there. Yeah. And he got it down and kicked his leg pad out and made the save. And I'm just like, man, this guy showed up to play. And
yeah, that for me was like the defining moment too. That save on Radek Faksa, I think, of Dallas. And he just was able to laterally go across like that. And I knew, like, at that very moment, I couldn't even tell you what the score was at that time, but I was like, the Avs are winning this game. Like, they found their goaltender. He's so calm. He's so poised. And especially, like I said, just being thrust in. It was only his second start ever in the NHL playoffs. And, wow, you couldn't tell. Like, he looks like a veteran and just so calm, so poised. And, you love to see it. It's been awesome.
Yeah. More like Michael Hutchinson. Am I right? Right as he's taking a drink. Oh, that's dangerous. But, yeah, yeah. In the 2 weeks that we've, going in between episodes, this is working out really well. And I'm glad that we are going into a Game 7 tomorrow or today, today when people are going to be listening to this. And I'm glad we're going into a Game 7 because, it gives us a chance to recap the series without kind of either commiserating. Well, without commiserating, like, okay, well, the Avs gave it all they could. They went through Grubauer. They went through Francouz. They went through Michael Hutchinson and brought up, Hunter Miska. And it really gives us an opportunity to kind of, recap the best that we can the games leading up to it. Like I said, the Avs have had to put a 6 spot on. I say a 6 spot, I guess a 10 spot is like a $10 bill. So that 6 spot doesn't really make much sense, does it? But
I understand the reference. I get it. But
sure. Yeah. But I just kind of, in my head, I had to deconstruct that a little bit. So Avs had to put up 6 goals in each of their victories before Game 6. And, it's amazing how they're getting the goal support from the people that they need. And that kind of segues well into, what we're going to be talking about I mean, first things first, like we've been talking about with just the series in general, just the games and how it's been up and down and how they've had to have major goal support in order to get those victories in games 3 and game 5. But segueing into kind of our second segment, I mean, it's all kind of jumbled together because it's the Avalanche and it's the playoffs and everything. But, the Avalanche kind of in desperation mode after game 4. They're down 3-1 in the series. They're starting to retool. They're starting to bring in some of those Eagles black aces. You've got your Kevin Connauton, you've got your Logan O'Connor, you've got your Connor Timmins. And, of course, after Francouz was deemed unfit to play, you bring in Hunter Miska to back up Michael Hutchinson. And, just like we talked about before the playoffs really started, the Avs are carrying all the goaltenders on their roster for an emergency situation. And it wasn't COVID-19, at least it's not as far as we know.
Right.
But, maybe just it's injury for sure with Grubauer, but Francouz, I mean, okay, I'm going to take a breath. I'm going to let you talk, Scott, because I feel like I'm yammering on and on. It's just a lot of excitement to really pull it together and to, as we've spoken about, rely on depth.
Yeah. I mean, that's something we've talked about. It's been the theme, I guess, for the last, 4 episodes we've been doing this thing. But, I mean, you love to see it. And some guy, I forgot what we're even talking about on Twitter, but he like, came at me about, like, how the Eagles just don't, like, they're not a good developmental, like, team. And they're not, like, they don't have great depth, and they don't have, like, all this. And I was like, dude, what are you talking about? Like, we have Kevin Connauton, like, Pavel Francouz, Logan O'Connor's going in there, making big plays. You got Connor Timmins going in, too. It's like, this is – I mean, everything you want. That's the whole point of having the black aces. And it's like, look, the Eagles made these people. Like, and it's been nothing short of impressive what these guys have been doing. And I mean, they are, you could say they're the sole reason why the Avs are still in this thing. And I think it's the support of those depth guys.
Yeah, and I mean, I know it's like beating a dead horse, but the depth signings like a Burakovsky. I mean, he really, to me, stood out. In puck handling and just a lot of different ways in game 6. You couldn't really see. When he was on the ice and his line shift was up, it seemed like he always got the puck. It seemed like he was always touching it, and and being able to move the puck around. He had good puck control from what I saw, and even when Landeskog went down, with that leg injury. And, the Avs kind of were like, okay, they kind of girded up their loins, pulled themselves up by the bootstraps and were like, let's do this. And they didn't falter. They didn't waver and they got it done.
Yeah. I mean, it's amazing what happens when your backs are against the wall like that. It's like, I think what we saw the first 4 games, I guess, especially the first 2 games of this series with Dallas, is just a completely different Avalanche team than what we've seen all regular season long. And even through the first round series with Arizona. It's like, who are these guys? And I think, a lot of that it's easy to blame on the injuries and all the stuff that happened there. And it's like, all right, maybe just not their year. Just like awful luck. And then, things got worse in game 4. It's like you have Grubauer going down Grubauer going down, Francouz starting the game. And I mean, it's just, again, bad luck turns worse. And it's just, this team looked very down and out, down 3-1 in the series. But yeah, I mean, backs against the wall coming into game 5. I kind of expected the performance we got from them, and I think they're building off this momentum. And I think honestly, like, there's no way they lose game 7 tomorrow. I think with just the story they have here and the depth guys that are contributing to this thing, and the Burakovskys who are finally, I don't think he had a great first few games of this series, but started playing with McKinnon again these last couple of games, and he's playing really, really well. And it's like, there's nothing I guess adversity is going to be the word of the day. It's like this team hasn't really been healthy for the entire season. I think McKinnon said when phase 3 training camp started, he's like, a reporter asked him, he's like, how does it feel to finally have a fully healthy team back for the first time ever? And he's like, honestly, it's great, obviously, but also we're so used to just playing the way we've been playing without, some of our big guys. It's like McKinnon said, he's like, I think we only played 1 or 2 games all year with our fully healthy roster. So obviously coming into the playoffs, they're going to be dangerous because they're fully healthy. But we saw it again. Same thing happened during the regular season. They lost some key guys to injuries, and they facing more adversity as they've done all season long. And they're fighting, and that's what you want to see. I was again disappointed the first few games of the series. Like, who is this Avalanche team? They're just, laying down, just taking this one, ready to just call it good. Like, we tried our hardest. Injuries are too much, but I think the last couple games we've seen here, game 5 and 6, I mean, just what an incredible story this turnaround's been with, you got depth Colorado Eagles players coming in and helping out, and third string goalie who no one's ever heard of in their lives is saving the day. And it's awesome. Like I said, again, I don't think with the way they're rolling right now and with how confident this team has to be going into game 7, I think there's no chance they lose.
Well, and it reminds me of another goaltender that came in the postseason, one that was acquired in the Matt Duchene trade, a certain Hamburglar, if you will, Andrew Hammond, and him coming into the playoffs and making an appearance. And, granted, it didn't turn out very well in the end, that is.
He had one good game. Yeah.
He did.
Really great game 5.
Yes.
And then game 6, not so much.
Yeah, not so much. But we'll kind of touch on that a little later, because he mainly spent most of the year in still in Belleville, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I think so. Yep.
Yeah, like the Avs were like, all right, well, we don't really need him in Colorado, so Belleville can hang on to him. But anyway, all Hamburglers aside, it's just to kind of wrap this up, because I know we've got a lot of fan questions, which was great. It was awesome to see everybody respond to you when you put that out there on your account.
Right.
I'm like, okay, we've got a lot of fan questions to cover, and we'll do a very thorough and just a very concise job with that. So we'll tie those up good. But game 5, if you're the Dallas coaching staff, goaltending staff, why do you bring back Ben Bishop?
I think that's the question on all of our minds. And again, it's one of those things, like, I think as soon as I saw that Ben Bishop has started, he literally just said earlier that morning before game 5 that Ben Bishop is still unfit to play. And all of a sudden just, tossed a curveball to the entire hockey world. And it's like, oh, surprise, surprise, he's starting. And I was like, why? Anton Khudobin is the reason why Dallas is, stuck in this thing. And the reason why they're doing so well. Dude's playing at a Vezina trophy caliber. Why Ben Bishop? Like, I understand he's your de facto number 1 goaltender, but he's obviously not fit to play. You guys kind of forced him back into this thing. He hasn't played in 3 weeks, and you threw him to the wolves with a team like the Avalanche who has their backs against the walls that you knew were going to come out flying. That was just, questionable at best to do that. And I think, honestly, I think if Khudobin started that game, I think the Avs obviously would have had a much tougher time winning that one. And I wouldn't be surprised if Dallas pulled that one out, because it's tough when you go down 5 quick goals like that, and 4 of which were easy goals that Khudobin 100% would have had. It's a completely different game. And I think Dallas, played better than the Avalanche for the final 2 periods of that game, and I think outscored them 3-1. So, questionable that they did that, but I'm sure, Jared Bednar and the Avalanche are just like, thank you. That's awesome. Like, we needed that. And I think that's the reason why they won the game. Obviously, the Avs played really, really well, but I think if Khudobin was in net and not Bishop, I think it would have been a different story.
Oh yeah. To bring a guy in that's cold and rusty, like Ben
at this
Bishop,
juncture in the playoffs.
At this juncture, when you're trying to clinch the Western Conference semifinal, punch your ticket to the Western Conference final against Vegas or Vancouver. It's a head scratcher. I've seen coaches do that in the playoffs, though. I've seen, like, okay, you've got a hot goaltender and you got another one coming back from the AHL. I covered the ECHL for 2 seasons and, a number of playoff series and stuff. And you bring another goaltender in, and it's like you completely change the dynamic. Like, you've got a hot goalie, the defense knows what to do in front of that goaltender because he's played X amount of games. I feel like the strategy there was, it's a head scratcher. It's baffling. Insert cliched, questionable remark here. It's like, what are you doing? And then he lets in 5 goals in the first period.
I'm not. Yeah, exactly. And then gets pulled, which is like even more embarrassing for him and for the coaching staff. And you'd say, I think what their rationale was probably Khudobin's been playing, lights out. He's been playing a lot of tough minutes, taking a lot of shots against like an Avs team that puts up a lot of shots.
Right.
And it was a back-to-back game. So I think maybe that was kind of Rick Bonus's thinking was, all right, maybe it's like give him a rest. Let's see if Bishop can pull this thing out, and we'll throw him in there, even though he may not be 100% healthy. But they know they're going to need Hudobin for the rest of this playoff, however long it lasts. And I think I don't know. I didn't watch that Zoom after that game. I think I've read a few of the quotes, but if I was Dallas media, I would be just laying into Bonus after that game. And I think obviously some people ask, like, what was your thinking going into this? And, he's trying to say it's like it's not Bishop's fault, like it's the team's fault or whatever. And it's like, honestly, it's your fault, coach. Like that is a weird, questionable call at best. And I think you threw your team. You didn't give your team the best shot to win by throwing him out there.
No. And to try and shirk responsibility like that, it's not a good vote of confidence for Coach Bonus. That's for sure. But
no.
Wrap this up in a nice little bow. Let's talk about some statistics real quick.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll just break down the Eagles. Obviously, Hunter Miska hasn't played, hasn't needed to because Michael Hutchinson. But
Right.
Logan O'Connor, 4 games played, 0 goals, 1 assist. Did get his first NHL postseason point. Kevin Connauton, 3 games played, 1 assist as well. And then Conor Timmins, 2 games played, hasn't accrued a point, but his gameplay has been solid. Would you agree?
I think so. And I'm not sure if he after Game 5, coach was raving about him. As he's always done.
That's right. I did see that.
Yeah, even during the Phase 3 training camp, even like beginning of the season, obviously, he just like this guy is so mature. He revealed, in Phase 3 training camp, we were talking to him like this is a guy in 2017 after we drafted him. We had a serious conversation with Joe Sakic, our entire staff, about putting this kid in at like 18, 19 years old because they are that confident in his ability, and he was just that much better than everybody else. Obviously, they opted to wait to put him in, and then he went back to the OHL that year, and that's kind of when that unfortunate injury happened, which is still I think affecting him to this day. And then he got in, surprised everybody the first 2 games of the regular season, surprised everyone, and made the roster after the 18-month layoff from recovering from concussion-like symptoms or whatever it was. And again, raved about his AHL season with the Eagles. I would agree. I saw him, quite a bit. He's a quiet guy, but he's a very mature guy. He always makes the right play. And I think a lot of people want to, say he's next like Cale Makar, like Bowen Byron, put him in that kind of category with those guys as, a two-way offensively dynamic guy. I think he's honestly kind of developing more into a stay-at-home defenseman. I think he's a great puck mover, but I don't think he's going to be putting up Cale Makar numbers ever in his career, and that's fine. You already have your top line defenseman. I think he's going to do really well on the bottom 4 or whatever, and that's good. But I don't know if you saw it in Game 6, the hit he took to the head. I want to talk about that.
I must have missed it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we're all holding our breath. I don't think it's good. So I think he only played like 7 minutes or something like that, and then took a hit from Andrew Cogliano from Dallas. It didn't seem like I thought it was a clean hit. Maybe he had his back turned a little bit to him, but it was kind of just one of those, rub him off on the boards and go about your game. And he did kind of hit his head on the glass a little bit there. And I think as soon as I saw that you obviously feel sick to your stomach, just knowing what this guy went through, the 18-month concussion like we just talked about. And if that happens again, it's like, who knows, if he can make it back from that. And I think he returned. He played a couple more minutes that game after that hit, but he ultimately ended up like leaving halfway through the game and never returned. And I think we asked him today, we asked Coach Bednar what his prognosis was. And he's like, I don't know. Like we'll know a little bit more tomorrow maybe, but I'm really not expecting it to be good. And I think if you go on Twitter now and just type in Conor Timmins, I think most people are very fearful of what's in store for him. But obviously you got your fingers crossed. He's a promising young defenseman like we just talked about. But I mean, if he takes another bad hit to the head, who knows if he's coming back.
Yeah, I mean, if one of the greatest players of our generation, Sidney Crosby, is not immune to what I mean, Eric Lindros, the previous generation was a poster child for what what can happen when
Mhm.
you've got so many concussion syndromes. And of course, before it was really broadcast and well known as to how detrimental that can be just to your lifestyle in general if you don't heal up properly. And Lindros chose to sit, and he was vilified for it back then, of course, because it wasn't fully understood. Crosby, not so much, because of the fact that, a little more education, a little more, and same with Timmins. People knew it's like, oh gosh, he's got to heal. He's got to make sure that he's functioning at a 100% level. And I guess I just must have missed that. I mean, just in the hoopla and everything, and trying to, I will admit I was.
You should definitely you should look it up, because I think you'll notice right away, especially given everyone knows this history about the head trauma. And I saw it live. The camera just happened to pan to him during that play, and it gave a really good view of the hit. I think we all saw it live. He banged the side of his head on the glass a little bit too hard, fell to the ground. It looked bad to me because I know his history. We all know his history. Everyone kind of held their breath, but he got up, started skating again. He didn't stay on the ice, which is, again, a good indicator. And then he ended up coming back and playing a few more shifts, but he ultimately just went to the locker room, left the bench after playing a couple more shifts, and then was deemed unfit to play or whatever, and it never returned. And we still don't have any update on his status yet, and I don't expect to be good. Let's just say I think Connauton's probably playing next game, and that's unfortunate. Just wish him nothing but the best.
Of course. Yeah, you don't want to see a guy's career derailed because of something, because of injury, but especially because of anything related to your head. So
Right.
It's just
it's a lifelong thing. It's not a broken bone. You just 6 weeks, find some physical therapy, maybe a year you take off, but that's just something that recurs, and you can never really recover from it 100%, especially if it happens multiple times, and that's what we're scared of here.
Right. Yeah, I completely had my head elsewhere apparently and didn't catch that, but I will definitely look that up and wish nothing for nothing but the best for Conor Timmins, because that's Anyway,
that sucks. Yeah, on that sad note,
no, that's okay. Thank you for that. I just I was out to dinner with the girlfriend, and conversation sometimes just flows a little longer than you expect. I mean, we're both engaged in the game for sure, but it just must have been something that while we were talking, I missed.
If you weren't watching it like very closely with the sound on or whatever, you would have missed it. The camera panned to it for 2 seconds, and you kind of saw it. And when you saw it, you saw it. And especially all Avalanche fans that know his history, I think we all kind of just immediately went on Twitter and said something about it. And it's not looking great, unfortunately. Anyway, we'll switch it up. We'll talk about something a little happier.
No, that's all right. I've
been thinking about it all day though, man. I'm so bummed. I got to know this guy covering the Eagles last year, and the entire NHL knows this story at this point. But obviously, it's near and dear to the Eagles community and the Avalanche community, and it's an awesome story that he was able to come back, and he would just hate his literally for makes it 1.5 games back in the NHL after 18-month recovery, and gets laid out again. And we're back to square one, but we'll change it up. We'll talk about something else. Logan and Conor's doing great. Kevin Connauton did pretty well in his 3 games, and I hope they keep it up.
Yeah, and nothing against Hunter Miska, but hopefully he doesn't see any game time.
Right.
Because that would be bad. That would be bad circumstances.
Not a good sign for sure.
No. But like I mentioned before, last but not least, but I mean, it's definitely not going to be least, because lots of fan submissions. I'm glad you tweeted that out as well. Normally, the first 3 episodes, I've just been like, all right, guys, and you've done well to retweet it. Easy for me to say.
Right.
But this time you sent a tweet out, and you got a lot of responses.
Yeah, no, I'll start doing that. I was surprised to see that many. I know I have a few followers, but I don't know how many invested in the Eagles and how many care to hear their questions be answered. But I was surprised. I don't know, what did we get? Like a dozen questions, 8, 9, 10. I don't know.
Oh, I wish we got that many.
Next week we got that.
Yeah, let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Well, I count 6. I'll take half a dozen.
Okay. Yeah.
And if we get a dozen, I don't think we can air them
I was
all
going
in
to
a
say,
45
6 is probably
minutes.
the sweet spot. I don't know if we can handle 12 questions. It's going to be an entire hour-long podcast in and of itself, but
Right.
6 is great. We'll start there.
It's a good spot. So first from the mailbag, the digital mailbag, asking the feed, Mitch Bryant at AvsFan20. His question, your opinion, Logan O'Connor on the team next year, the Eagles, or in the AHL, or the NHL rather, sorry, NHL.
Yeah, and I've been saying it for a while now. I think he's an NHL forward. I want to say Matt Nieto on the fourth line there. I think his contract might be up. Don't quote me on that, but
we will check.
I think he's gonna be a guy that fills in for that fourth line. I think that's what he's always been projected, and we're seeing him play a few games here in the NHL playoffs on the biggest stage in the league, playing on that fourth line with Bellemare and Nieto, and he's done great. Like, he looks like a fourth line forward. If you listen to NBC broadcast, they rave about him. Like, they absolutely love the way he plays. He's not scared to go out there and go after, Jamie Benn, the captain of the Stars, and go after Jamie Alexiak of the Dallas Stars' biggest player. He's like 6'7", and I think he almost got in a fight with him last game. I was like, wow. It's like, someone tell this kid he belongs in the AHL, but he doesn't. He doesn't believe it. And I think to answer that question, I think he's definitely in the NHL next year. Which
Right.
We're gonna miss him in Eagles country, but obviously that's his dream to play in the NHL. So,
I mean, yeah, Nieto is an unrestricted free agent next year, and Logan O'Connor, he is still he's going to be a restricted free agent next year.
Yeah, so I guess I think he's obviously going to get re-signed because he's going to be a cheaper option than Nieto, and I think he's arguably just a better option at this point. Nieto's done great. He's played in Colorado for some time now and done some really good things in the fourth line over the years. But it's time to get a little bit younger. It's what the Avs have been trying to do, and I think OC is ready. O'Connor's he's good to go, and he's proven that so far this season. And I think he slots in on that fourth line next year for a much cheaper. I don't know, maybe 2-3 year, $1.5 million contract kind of thing. And I look forward to seeing him in Denver.
Yeah, I think he's definitely proven himself in these games that he's played in the postseason. I mean, you love to see it. You love to see the guys in the developmental system work well. So, I mean, I would agree with you on that. All right, next question. This is from JT. That's all his Twitter handle said was JT.
Okay.
No last name. That's fine. That's fine. You can maintain anonymity. I mean, we've got another guy coming up. You'll see. He's really anonymous. So anyway, JT though.
All right.
A little foreshadowing, trying to build some suspense. Not doing a very good job, but JT at AZ Avs fan, an Avs fan over there in Arizona. What does the future look like in terms of time between Loveland and Denver for Bowen Byram and Shane Bowers?
Well, Bowen Byram will never play in Loveland. I guess we'll get that out of the way.
No.
I don't think anyone knows. People are still a little. They don't know the rules on that one, but I think now, I'm going to space on what exactly the rules are. But I think you have to be at least 21 to play in the AHL. And and I think his rights are owned by a WHL team anyway. So he just contractually wouldn't, unless he waited a couple more years. I think he just turned 19 or 20. Maybe if his career does not go that great, which I don't think that's going to be the case, but maybe we'll see him spend some time in Loveland, the Eagles. But no, I think next year he's going to be a full-time Avalanche as well. And if not, he's just going to end up going back to Vancouver, the WHL.
Actually, he does qualify because the AHL age limit is 18.
Okay. So maybe it has something to do with – I think it has something to do with just the way the contracts work out or something with the WHL and the AHL. But I do know for a fact he cannot play in the AHL.
Mm-hmm.
Unless I don't know exactly what it is. But, again, like I said, either way, if he's not in Denver next year, he will be the year after that. And I think the Vancouver Giants, the WHL, still owns his contract up until then, so the Eagles cannot sign him unless he goes straight to the NHL. So
okay,
I guess for Byram, he's never going to play in Loveland. unless things go poorly down the road in his career.
Mm-hmm.
After he makes the jump to the NHL, maybe gets sent down for a conditioning assignment or something like that. But Bowers, I think Bowers will spend some time between both the Eagles and the Avs next year. I think that's a pretty safe bet. See the fact they brought him into the bubble to get some time with these big guys and get some practice time with the McKinnons and the Randons and the Landeskog's of the world. I think they did that for a reason. I think they believe in him a lot. He's a former first-round pick, and I expect him to, maybe similar to what O'Connor got this year. Maybe he'll spend just like on a sort of loan kind of thing, sub in on the fourth line, third line, whatever it is, and maybe get 5-6 games in the NHL this year, and then we'll see where he goes. But I think for the most part, he probably will be in Loveland for a majority of the season at least.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I know Bowen Byram is he's one of those wonderkin defensemen, not necessarily the same type of player as Cale Makar, but just a young guy that is ready for the big stage. And I think that I just think that like you said, it is a little to no chance that he shows up for the Eagles next season, because when you're ready, you're ready. And
I think he's close to ready, at least, for sure.
Mm-hmm. Right. So
we'll see.
Why play another year in the WHL with the Vancouver Giants when you're ready to go in the NHL?
Exactly. I think that was kind of the whole thing too. Is to your point, why would we send him to the WHL when he's already broken records down there and I've done all the developing he can. Now he's just making other guys look silly. So it's either you send him back there and he kind of just spends a year just in limbo, just practicing with a minor league team, or you give him a shot with the NHL. And I think that's what they're going to do.
Yeah. Well, there you go, JT. There's the answer for Byram and Byram and Bowers. I was going to say, I was going to say Bowen and Byram, but that's right. Just first name and last name.
Yeah.
So lots of B's getting thrown around there. Gets a little confusing, but all right, moving right along. We've got Matthew Haynes at Out of Tune 89. How many full-time Eagles this year crack the Avs next? I'm doing this verbatim, by the way. So if the tweets sound a little wonky verbally, it's because I'm saying them verbatim. I'm being, legit to the source text. So go ahead.
So what full-time Eagles from this past season?
I'm guessing that's
gonna be full-time next season.
I'm guessing so. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of the same question that we're tackling, just maybe a little expanded. Yeah. So.
Well, I think the only one that's for sure, I think it's O'Connor. I think he's absolutely playing on the fourth line full-time with the Avalanche next year. And if he's not, then I think it's a mistake by the team to go with Nieto over O'Connor or whatever, if they decide to re-sign Nieto. But
right.
I think the other one everyone wants, they want to know about Martin Kaut, and if he's going to be ready to go. That's a tough one. That one I'm not so sure about. For me personally, I was a little bit shocked that he got those 9 games with the Avalanche this year, and he went out and proved me wrong. He looked really good. Scored his first goal. I think he got 4 points in his first 9 games and didn't look lost out there. But yeah, I think maybe he could use a little more time, or maybe they're kind of getting to that point where it's just like, let's just throw him to the wolves and see what he can do. And I think that's what they did in the regular season. They gave him those 9 games, and he did really well. So I think I had a conversation with Eagles head coach Greg Cronin about that too. He said he got a call from Sakic or whatever, and Bednar, and they had a conversation about who should we call up with these latest injuries, and they asked specifically about Kaut, and then he I guess Cronin kind of gave the same answer I just did, and he's like, I honestly don't know. Like, there are some consistency issues with him. There's some speed issues with him, and he looks great at times, but other times he looks very frustrated. And I think that's part of just him being young. So he just told him, straight up, I don't know. It's like, you can give him a shot, but I don't know what you're going to get. And they obviously decided to give him that shot, and I think he proved all of us wrong. But I don't know exactly, what the cap space is looking like next year, or, what the depth chart is looking like, people who are, who the Avs are going to be losing versus not. But I think if there's maybe a spot open on the third line, maybe you give it to him. I think, maybe he starts the season much like Conor Timmins did at the beginning of this year, see what he can do the first few games. But I don't know. The only one that I know for sure, I think O'Connor is in the NHL full time next year. Kaut, I think, maybe gets 30, 40 games or 20, 30, somewhere in that range. But I don't think he's a full timer. Not yet. Maybe the year after next.
Well, and it's interesting to point out that the Avs' current roster. You look at all the depth players that they have. Like the Burakovsky, the Nemistikovs. Even Tyson Jost, Nichushkin, Vladislav Kamenev. We know that he's playing in the KHL next year. I mean, that news broke, and at first it was just a rumor, and now it's been confirmed. So all these guys either becoming restricted or unrestricted free agents next season. Nieto, that's another one you mentioned on the forward line as the depth of the Avalanche. Of course, all the first line and the second line guys are locked up for multiple years, but yeah, I mean, for those guys, if the Avs do decide to move on, or the players decide to move on for whatever reason, then there's no question that Logan O'Connor can slot right in there and and get a chance. And even Kaut could slide in there depending on who they sign and who they don't. So yeah, it is definitely a. I mean, you seemed pretty firm on your Logan O'Connor answer, but yeah, I mean, it can definitely be a fluid situation that. We're going to give our best educated guesses. Like, for example, I said Avs in 7. You said Avs in 6. So we'll see.
All right. Well,
I mean, not to.
Yeah, you were right about that one, huh? Oh, totally forgot about that.
Just pulling the low hanging fruit and presenting it at an opportune time. I forgot to bring it up earlier, so I'm like, this would be a good time to mention that. But we'll see. Yeah. It's a lot of conjecture at this point, but. Again, as analysts, we're going to give you the best educated guesses, the best hypotheses that we can muster up, and we'll see where
we're only one man. Everyone. That's the beauty of the internet, and that's the beauty of different sets of eyes. Everyone sees the game in different ways, and yeah, I mean, there's obviously going to be those people that are like, Martin Kaut's a first-round pick. He's ready to go. Did you see those 9 games, Scott? You idiot! Like. I mean, there are going to be those people, but I think just from me seeing him, just whether it's in practice or in games with the Eagles and seeing his time in the NHL, I think he's not quite ready. That I think a lot of people just want to, same thing with, here we go, Tyson Jost again.
I was going to mention him, but
another former first-round pick that I think they rushed him, and they're paying the price on that. And a lot of people just want to see him do so well. It's like, he's 10th overall pick in whatever year it was, and. Obviously he's got the talent. He's a first round pick. It's like, that doesn't mean anything, I think he could have taken some time to develop and get a little better. And I think they rushed him, and I don't think they want to make the same mistake. So I see them taking their time with Kaut next year. But I guess, I think Nemestikov on the third line, he's obviously up for a contract extension, and I'm not sure the Avs are going to give him one. So there is an opening on that third line, I think. Mm-hmm. So maybe if you want to go young, you go with that, but maybe they seek a different option in the free agency market, or maybe they re-sign him. I don't know. I'm not Joe Sakic, but we'll see.
Again, conjecture.
Yeah, I'm only one man.
Right. But it's you backed up your answers with some pretty good, foundation of facts and a foundation of your observations, and that's the best we can do. That's the best we can do. Yeah. But before we go on to the next question, I'd like to apologize for the viewers. Normally I wear a hat, and there's a reason I wear a hat is because there's a wicked glare off of my forehead here. And so, yeah.
See, I think my room is so dark, it's bouncing off of your head, and it's kind of helping out my face a little bit.
Yeah, so, maybe it's, yeah, we've got a lighting contrast balance brightness here.
Yeah, I need a ring light or something. I need something better than this. I only have one small lamp in my room. I'll have to upgrade.
Yeah, you gotta love. I've got a little desk lamp here that's illuminating a little more. So, but that's it's situated up high and coming down. But I digress. Let's continue fielding questions. We'll continue asking the feed. Sorry for the caveat there, but okay. Next question. Here's the one. The guy who's really being mysterious and anonymous. Rafting Ninja at Rafting Ninja. Okay.
Interesting.
I know it is a regular season award, but does the dominant performance from Cale Makar help with Calder votes?
Yeah, I mean, I think he just answered the question by asking the question right there.
Right.
Obviously, I think people are noticing. I think he's having a pretty solid postseason, but it is a regular season award. So, I mean, the voting's already been done.
Right.
But, I mean, it helps his Conn Smythe voting, I guess. But that's about it. I think I've been saying it since the season ended. I think he's definitely going to be the guy to win the award. I think he should be. Quinn Hughes, great. Kuba League from Chicago, I think, solid. But I think no one's been able to change the game. Everyone wants to compare the stats, and I think Hughes did have the better stats. He had more points, but he also played more games. And Makar was lost to injury there for a few games, and they were pretty damn close in points. If you want to look at it statistically, yeah, sure, you give it to Hughes, but I think you look at a guy like McCart, he's able to just every time he's on the ice change the game. He's playing 20 to 25 minutes a night, and he can just take the whole team on his back, and you see it some nights. And I think we've seen some flashes of it in the playoffs, and I think he's great. So I don't know if it helps his Calder Trophy voting because I was already done, but I think I'll answer it by saying I think he should win the Calder Trophy, and I'll leave it at that.
And I'll chime in a little too here. I don't want you to have all the fun, Scott, but it's like in game 6 when he potted that goal, he was in the right place at the right time. Even as a defender, he crashed the net. And when he got the rebound, he just boom. And it was such a beautiful shot. It just was top shelf bar. Well, it wasn't bar down, but it was top shelf. And just the placement of it was just so precise. And I know that's the name of the game in the NHL,
Right.
I mean, but Makar is just, he's a special teams wonder. He's, he's just a solid two-way defensive presence two-way defenseman presence rather. And it's just, you can't speak well enough for him. And yeah, it's, if anything, all this postseason is going to do, like you said, Calder voting is done. All this postseason is going to do is solidify him as one of the top tier defensemen in the NHL. And just really increase his reputation in the in the public, what am I trying to say? The forum of public opinion in the
It's just the perception of him, I guess. And I think
there you go.
A lot of reason, a lot of Colorado players for whatever reason are just so sheltered. It's this team has been pretty good for the better part of 2 years now. And you're seeing the guys people are so shocked about Nathan McKinnon. And I think we're just now finally starting to see the national coverage about him. Wow, this guy is legit. It's we know. We've been seeing it all the time. The dude's unreal. And it's kind of the same thing with Makar. I don't know if you want to play the Canadian media versus Colorado media. It's why people are loving, Quinn Hughes in Vancouver and not so much Cale Makar. But I think this playoffs they're obviously both still in the playoffs. Both their teams are. But I think if you listen closely to the NBC broadcast, I think they're speaking very highly of Makar, and it's no surprise to any of us. But he's gonna have a great prolific career for however long he's in this thing. And again, I think he wins the Calder Trophy, and I think if anything, like you just said, this postseason and what he's done so far just solidifies the fact that he is a Calder Trophy winner and should be.
Yeah, and it's so funny. I'll just touch on this real quick, and then we'll keep on. We got 2 more questions. But it's so funny in sports. You have this East Coast, West Coast bias. So the East Coast bias is what the West Coast people say. And it's kind of flipped on its head for hockey. You've got the Canadian media bias and then, the United States media.
North America,
It's just, it's interesting when you said that. I just was all right, it's a little different in hockey, but I mean, that's kind of something people already knew. But anyway,
it's a real thing, though. It is.
It is. For sure. I mean, hockey's Canada's game, and that's where you're going to have the strongest media presence. It's just
exactly.
Yeah,
but we'll get there eventually.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, the Avs are doing good things to put us on the map for sure.
Mm-hmm. Back on the map, I should say. So, all right, last 2 questions. People we've already fielded questions for, but, very valid questions nonetheless. Mike Crook at Sinbin Rush covers the Rapid City Rush for the Sinbin. Epic rally for Colorado to rebound and force a deciding Game 7 against Dallas. The Denver Nuggets pulled out a miracle in their series against the Utah Jazz. I don't want to talk about it as somebody who grew up in Salt Lake City during the Stockton and Malone years. I don't want to talk about it.
Well,
I'm kidding. We'll talk about it. I just wanted to pretend to be a little upset. Yeah, it was, boy.
Yeah.
They looked pretty down and out. I mean, after 30-point blowouts and then coming back and scratching and clawing and, last second 3-pointer missed by Mike Conley. The Jazz couldn't pull it out. Denver, well, we'll see how they do against the Clippers. Anyway, the Nuggets pulled out a miracle in their series against the Jazz. Will the Avs have the same luck against the Stars?
I mean, I think we're seeing good signs so far. You guys will, by the time of listening to this, you'll probably know better than us if they pulled it off or not. But yeah, I was talking about that to some of my buddies. It's unreal what Denver's doing. I think they are both coming into the season. Both the Nuggets and the Avalanche were, highly touted teams. I think they were expected to do really, really well. And then for them to kind of just go down the way they did in their first couple rounds of their respective playoff series, I think kind of hurt like a lot of people. But then we just saw like there's a lot of fight left in this team, and they're proving a lot of people wrong, I guess. And again, like I said earlier in the podcast, I think the Avs pull it out. I think they have all the confidence in the world heading into this thing, and that's a cool story for speaking to Denver media. That's gonna be an awesome thing to cover for us basketball writers and hockey writers. That you had two separate teams in the same year come down from just down and out in 3-1 series holes to come back and scratch and claw their way back into this thing and win. I think that's what you need in the postseason. It's very telling of a team that should be there or not be there. Is they face adversity, but they scratch and claw their way back, and that's how you win championships.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, with a guy like a Jamal Murray for the Denver Nuggets to kind of focus on basketball for a little bit, I will give credit where credit's due. But man, 50 points, 47 points, 50 points. I mean, and you're averaging, or maybe it was 48 points, but you're averaging, over 47 points in a 3-game span. I think it's only been done by some guy named Jerry West and another guy named Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
elite company there.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. Elite is the great word is the word for it, for sure.
Yeah.
But it's there is something to Mile High magic, and we're not in the the Mile High city of Denver during these playoffs, but man, to really have that resilience and to have that endurance of playing at a mile high.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're professional athletes. I get it. They train, probably in Colorado Springs and other places of high elevation, but it's it's just, you can't discount the big mo. You can't discount momentum. And when you get it and you start building it, it's really hard to stop. It's just it's a stone rolling down the hill. Yeah. It's not going to gather any moss. Nothing's going to stop it. It's going to cause all sorts of havoc and destruction just rolling down that hill. And I think the Avalanche and the Nuggets, I mean, well, again, Clippers are a tough draw for round 2 for the Nuggets, but yeah, the Avs, they're knocking on that door of the Western Conference Final.
Yeah, looking good. Yeah, like you said, momentum, that's everything in the postseason of any sport. And, obviously the Avs have proved so far, it doesn't matter who you have on your team. If you have that momentum, you have that fight and that resiliency, like you said, to stay in the fight. I think it doesn't matter who's playing on your side. It doesn't matter if you're missing, Nathan McKinnon. Well, okay, maybe that doesn't matter if you're missing him, but you're missing some big name guys. Like the fact they can still win this thing, it's just like that. That's just confidence and momentum, and that's how they made it this far. And that's, again, like I said, why I think they win Game 7 tomorrow, the Avalanche.
Mm-hmm. Last but not least, and to kind of wrap that up and to segue into the final question, a hot goaltender doesn't hurt either. Michael Hutchinson. Final question. Joseph Wills covers the Charlotte Checkers for the Simbin, but also at hockey_jerseys. Does Hutch get an extension? That's a valid question. Yeah. And one that I'm willing to I have an opinion on this too, but I want to hear what you have to say, of course.
Yeah, that's tough. I think a lot of people want to buy into the story or whatever it is. It's obviously a great story. It's awesome. You love to see it. He's potentially, or he has so far, saved the Avalanche season. and may potentially take them even further than they ever thought he could. But that aside, regardless of where they end up in this thing, even if they win the Stanley Cup and it's Hutchinson's the guy in net when they do so, I think maybe you consider signing him. But I don't know. I don't think you can weigh too much on the on a guy's story to offer him a contract extension. The Avs have plenty of talent coming up the pipeline. They just re-signed Francouz earlier in the year. Say what you will about his playoffs so far, but he is going to be the backup.
All right. Sorry about the technical difficulties there. But basically, like you were saying, Scott, there's a wealth of goaltending prospects that are coming up. And unless Michael Hutchinson is holding the Stanley Cup over his head as the victorious goaltender for the Colorado Avalanche, it's very, again, it kind of harkens back to Andrew Hammond. Now, he didn't have a super standout performance in the playoffs. He was an acquisition from a fairly big trade. Not so much for Hutchinson, but a mid-season, either trade deadline or mid-season acquisition.
Sure.
And it's just he's kind of the odd man out, kind of like Antoine Bibeau. He was acquired as kind of an insurance policy, and then he goes down with an injury, and so they needed to bring in Hutchinson as the insurance policy for the Eagles and the Avs. So it's just kind of it's a crowded room, and there's only so many seats at the table,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just think it's so easy. Again, like I said, it's just for people to buy into the story, just like they did Hammond, during the 2018 playoffs. Everyone loves a good story. I do too. I wrote about it earlier today about him and how he deserves his chance and how this is just so awesome to see. But you can't. He was brought in, like you said, to use an insurance policy. He was never supposed to play a game for the Avalanche. That's just how it is. But here he is. That's why you get these kinds of guys that, if worse comes to worse, they can come in and they can hold their own, and he's certainly doing that. But unless he's hoisting the Stanley Cup above his head and he wins the Conn Smythe Trophy, he's a 30-year-old goaltender. The Avs have much arguably better and younger talent coming up the pipeline. There's just no seat at the table for the guy. But
and to kind of invoke another Avalanche alumni, Hutchinson is kind of a career AHL guy like Calvin Pickard. Calvin, he had his time in the NHL, and he kind of bounced back and forth between the NHL and the AHL a little bit, but now he's just kind of settled into the AHL, and I kind of see Hutchinson doing the same unless he continues to just stand on his head and do well in the playoffs. So
I agree.
But all righty, well, we we finished up another episode, a little choppy end there, but we finished strong. We got the bandwidth back on your end, Scott, and
my bad.
No,
I'm going to Ethernet next time, maybe. We'll see.
No worries, man. No worries. Well, there's always technical difficulties with podcasts. I've done a number of them with the In the Corners podcast, and you're just like, some episodes you're like, all right, we got to scrap it, but we salvaged this one. Episode 4 is coming to an end. So, Scott,
any predictions?
What's that?
Before we go, any predictions for Game 7 tomorrow?
Oh, well, I'm gonna stick to my guns. I mean, Game 7, I'm seeing the Avs are gonna take it, and the final score, it's gonna be close. It's gonna be a little too close for comfort. I think the Avs take it by a score of, I think it's gonna be another. Well, let's see. I'm going to go 4-3.
Damn, he took mine. All right. That's what I was going to go with too. But
I'll tell you what.
Way, I think Avs win.
Okay.
Just to be against contrarian, I'll go 3-2. I think our boy Hutchinson makes 29 saves, plays really, really well. Continues his feel good story that's happening right now, and takes the Avs into the next series. But Game 7 win tomorrow.
I laugh because 3-2 is actually going to be my initial choice. And
really?
I'm like, no, we'll add a few more goals. So that's fun.
Well, the point is, I think, it's going to be like a one-score game for sure. Mm-hmm. But I think it's not going to go – it's going to be much like last game. It's not going to be as high scoring, I think. It's going to be a lot of pressure on these teams to win this thing. And it's going to be a very, very heavy defensive battle. Oh.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, just like game 6 was kind of a low scoring affair for Dallas. It is going to be a defensive battle for sure. Like both teams are not going to want to leave the bubble, I don't think. And it's definitely going to be a lot closer than the previous games. So, well, Scott, we're wrapping it up. We got game 7 tomorrow, and we'll see. We'll be back in a couple weeks to talk about either the Western Conference Final or not. so we'll see. But obviously, we're optimistic. And Scott, since we're wrapping this one up, go ahead and tell the people out there in the interwebs land. That sounded really kind of stunted and weird, but
I like it.
interwebs land.
Yeah, hit me up on Twitter. I'm there all the time. It's my main outlet. At @offscottfree on Twitter. That first O it's a 0, not an O. So it's 0FF Scott Free. I'll be there every day. You can find my work there, or at ColoradoHockeyNow.com.
Mm-hmm.
I post there almost every day as well, talking Avalanche, Eagles, DU Pioneers, whatever it might be.
Yeah, and you guys know where to find me. Obviously, we are hosting and platforming the podcast at thesinbin.net. And me, I'm awkward Hawkley. I'm I'm just phrasing stuff weird, and it's just getting a little awkward sometimes, and that's okay because that's who I am, and I'm okay with that.
You have the hard job. You're playing host. I couldn't do that. I can't fill that much airspace. So props to you. Pat yourself on the back. Don't get down on yourself. There you go.
No, Awkward Hawkley's a nickname I acquired in college just because. Well, in college, I was trying too hard to impress people, and it's just it didn't.
Aren't we all?
Well. Well, sure, yeah. It's just, but no, I mean, Awkward Hawkley. It's just like, it rolls off the tongue. It's just sometimes I phrase things weird, and people are like, okay, but yeah, when you host and you have moments like that, it's like, okay, that was awkward. You acknowledge it, you move on. Yeah, so gotta roll with it. It's all good. I don't mind.
You do good work.
Well, thank you, man, and you do the same. So this is why we make a good team. So, but hey, for Scott MacDonald, I'm CC Hawkley, and we thank you for tuning in to the Tape to Tape Colorado Eagles Tape to Tape podcast. Be sure to check us out on YouTube, and follow Scott on Twitter. Follow me on Twitter. Read his stuff on Colorado Hockey Now, like he said. Read my stuff and pretty much a lot of AHL, ECHL, SPHL stuff on the sinbin.net. We've got minor league hockey news and coverage for days. So once again, thanks for tuning in, and we will see you guys next time.
You've been listening to the Colorado Eagles Tape to Tape podcast. For the latest news on the Eagles, the American Hockey League, and the rest of minor league hockey, visit thesinbin.net or download the Sinbin app for Apple and Android devices.